oldest commercial law firms in Nigeria, Owolabi Ajayi, recently clocked 60. And as part of activities to mark this significant milestone, the firm unveiled its anniversary logo and also launched the OA Innovation Lab, a platform to develop and promote technology-based service delivery in the legal sector in Nigeria, Africa, and beyond. I sat down with the managing partner of the firm, Dr. Tomini Owolabi, to talk about how legal practice has evolved in Nigeria, what opportunities the next few decades hold for lawyers and their practice, and the globalization of legal practice. Also showing on the program today, the Federal High Court holds a valedictory court session in honor of retired Justice Taiwo, plus a recap of some of the top trending legal stories. Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Shola Sheyeli. Dr. Tomini Owolabi has been recognized by Who's Who Legal as one of the top project finance, mergers and acquisition lawyers in the world. He has a long-standing track record of involvement in some of the largest and most complex projects in the dynamic sectors of the Nigerian economy, spanning energy, telecoms, banking and finance, ICT, infrastructure development, and financial regulation. Dr. Owolabi is also a 2011 recipient of the Eisenhower Fellowship for International Leadership and the managing partner of Owolabi Ajayi LP. I began the interview with his views on the Owolabi Ajayi legacy and what the next few decades holds for legal practice in Nigeria.
The firm was started just about 2 years after Nigeria's independence. It was started by Owolabi Ajayi, who didn't start school until the age of 13. And he whenever he told us the story of his early days, he started school without shoes. And to think that a man who started school that late in abject poverty, led to the establishment of one of the biggest firms in Africa, just shows you the power of possibilities. And Owolabi Ajayi, that's what we stand for. And over the years, the firm has participated in transactions and landmark cases that has seen the evolution of Nigeria as a country. Whether you're talking about oil and gas, you're talking about infrastructure development, or you're talking about even the governance of the nation, the firm has had its footprints or fingerprints across those kind of transactions. And that is why we believe that as a firm, as we're celebrating 60, we're not just celebrating ourselves as a firm, we're celebrating the possibility of institutions in Africa. Only very few institutions in Nigeria can say they are 60 years.
And they're still alive.
And they're still alive, and they're leading their sector. Yeah. And what we're saying by celebrating our 60th is that there are stories in Africa that we need to tell the world. There is the possibility of institutions being established in Africa that would impact the world. And the story we're telling with our celebration is that the future of Africa, the future of Nigeria is the quality of institutions that we build. And that's what drives every case that we do, every transaction that we work on. And that's the endorsement that our clients have been giving us.
I want to talk about something else that Owolabi Ajayi did recently. I like some of the background information that you've given us, but you recently opened a law firm in London. Yes. You opened a London office with 3 new partners. And I know that many stakeholders consider that as a significant milestone. In fact, I've heard lawyers celebrate it. Even lawyers were not part of the firm. And, a lot of lawyers are excited about it. A lot of lawyers feel that that's the way to go. But it seemingly appears like a lot of people are not getting it. What is that thing that lawyers are not doing or should be doing more of, to have that kind of international collaboration, partnerships? Is that even the next phase that we should be looking at in upping the ante of legal practice in Nigeria?
Okay, so I'll take the last part of your question before the first. First and foremost, Nigeria has the largest collection of lawyers in Africa. The Nigerian bar is the largest black bar in the world. And therefore, we believe that the Nigerian legal sector should be a great contributor to our GDP. But though we have the largest number of lawyers on the continent, the Nigerian legal sector is not necessarily making as much money as, say, for instance, the South African legal market.
Why is
And we'll come to that. And that's one thing which we think we need to pay attention to. Yes, English law will always be a necessary law for commerce, but can Africans also, with the level of talents that we have out of this continent, also begin to play a major part in that? And that's why we believe that we can't just sit here. It's a global world, and globalization should not just be the West looking to Africa. It should also be Africa going to the world. And it's been a major milestone for, it's been a very expensive move, it's been a very bold move, but it's been a very rewarding move because a number of our clients have said, I want a firm that is truly African to be able to solve my African problem, even though it's an international work. And so we've had clients who are reaching out to us and saying, yes, we want an African who is able to deliver English law service. And that's where we found ourselves. And the response has been great. It's just our first year, and we're looking up to doing greater things. Now, for other people, we don't think, yes, we are the first, but we expect other people to follow. Because as I said, people complain about the pressure on the Naira now. And one of the explanations for the pressure on Naira is the importation of goods. But we should also realize that importation of services is putting pressure on Naira. And so the more we get Nigerians to do a lot more legal work for businesses in Africa, the less we put pressure on Naira.
I wanted to talk about what you think that the next few decades hold for legal practice in Nigeria. And if you look back at 60 years of how legal practice has fared in Nigeria, would you say that we've done fairly well? The
legal profession in Nigeria, though a traditional, historically traditional, very conservative profession, what we have in the last few decades evolved. And so law firms have become larger. Several years ago, there were sole practitioner firms, one person hiring a few people. Now we're having firms with 100 lawyers in Nigeria. We're having firms doing a lot of international work. And so we see that the legal profession in Nigeria has evolved as a business. For a long time, lawyers were just legal practitioners, but lawyers have now seen the practice of law as a business. And as a result of that, they are adopting tools, they are adopting structures, they're expanding their reach to make it better. But there's still quite a lot of work for us to do. And so in terms of the years ahead, I'm looking at the legal profession adopting more technology in the delivering of its service and also in the management of the firms. As I said, we are becoming larger firms, but in becoming larger firms, that throws up a lot of other issues. We need to manage ourselves better, and technology will be useful in that. The other thing which I believe we need to and would push the next few decades is how we're trained. The traditional way of training, which we see in our law schools, is too book-centric. Law is really a profession. It's a profession that is experiential. And so we need to look at the way we're trained, open that up more, infuse more practicality into the way we're trained. Currently, they send law school students for extern, as but that's not what we're looking at. In the UK, for instance, now as a solicitor, for you to qualify, you do 2 years contract with a law firm. We need to look at that because that is the way to train lawyers. It's not just sitting down in law school, reading books and cramming and pouring it down.
And go for court attachments and chamber attachments.
Which is for how many weeks? It's just for a short period. And what do they do then? It's not really, and so we need to look again at how we're trained.
Let me try and unpack a few of the things you said. I know you've been big on technology, and well, that brings me to the fact that your firm recently, introduced a technology hub or something like that?
We call it iLab, Innovation Lab.
Innovation Lab.
Currently as a firm, the fastest growing sector in the firm is actually our technology practice. It's actually in terms of percentage growth, it's actually our fintech and technology practice, because really every day young people are bringing new things, and everybody has seen that the biggest way the future of the country or the world really is technology. And so we found out that on an everyday basis, somebody's walking through the door with an idea that is requiring some legal support. And so we looked at that and we said, okay, beyond that, we also realized that a lot of our clients are looking for ways to make our service to them easier. A lot of our clients are saying, yes, someone in the oil and gas sector is saying, yeah, we have 1,001 laws to comply with. How do we introduce technology to that? And we just said, why don't we also be a catalyst for innovation that leads to technology that makes commerce easier? And so without just being a provider of legal service to people who have ideas, we decided we want to be a catalyst for people who are bringing up ideas to make commerce easier. And so we decided to start up this innovation lab. And what's it about? It's just a space for young people, old people, mid-aged people, anybody that has an idea to come forward. Spend time there, we create a right environment, and we give you support, legal and possibly opportunity to approach capital for you to develop your ideas. And hopefully when the idea is mature, we can make some money and the whole world benefits. And so that's the whole idea. And for us as a firm, that is characteristics of who we are. The firm has survived, this firm has grown because of its focus on creativity.
But talking about technology in the larger legal field, I know that COVID forced technology on us whether we wanted to move or not. But would you say that we've created the right balance, in terms of usage of technology in legal practice, vis-a-vis the criticisms that came up of fair hearing, you can't see the demeanor of the witnesses and all of those arguments? Would you say that we've struck the right balance, so to say?
So, as it is with most technology, it's an evolution. It's not an end in itself. As you mentioned, the pandemic opened our eyes to possibilities. People realized that virtual meetings, virtual proceedings, online filings, and things of that nature needed to happen. And a number of rule books have changed to adopt that. But there is no doubt that it's a process. And being a process, you have late adopters, people who will not feel comfortable with what you've said, and being a process also, things will keep evolving to deal with the current challenges. And so for me, it's not to say that we're not there yet. We've started in the right way. And one of the things that we've done as a firm, fortunately, we worked with a number of states working with the United Nations. The United Nations hired us to work with a number of state governments to bring technology to bear in their court system. And so we've worked with local states and a few states in the north where we've collaborated with the United Nations to bring technology to run their system. And there is no doubt that that is the way to go. Now, are those systems perfect today? No, as most things technology. But you start, you see where the gaps are, and you begin to build on that. But the future really is investing in technology and letting technology do things that we were traditionally doing ourselves.
I want us to run up with a kind of agenda setting. The acting CGN has just been confirmed CGN. The NBA has a new executive in place. So let's do a kind of agenda setting, some of these issues that we've talked about and how they can help move things forward.
So for the judiciary, it's simple. We need a faster court judiciary process. We need a much reliant judiciary process. Earlier on I was talking about the fact that, the UK is marketing legal services. And why they're marketing that is they're marketing that because they know that if you go to an English court, you get through quickly and you get the right type of decision. And so if we want to the legal service to contribute to our GDP, we need to pay attention to the court system. And what are the two key issues? First of all, is the speed of how matters are dispensed with.
And everybody complains about that.
And everybody complains about that. So, and it's easy to fix, I believe. It's easy. And that's where technology also comes through. There's a lot of pre-work that goes on before the matters are heard. We can use technology to shorten the time. And even the hearing itself, we can use technology to shorten that time. The second issue is the reliability of the judicial process. Will I get justice? That is also something the CJA should focus on. When it comes to the lawyers now talking about the new president of the bar, a key issue for me is also beginning to let lawyers understand that yes, we are lawyers, we're professionals, but it's also a business. And that I emphasize. And, because if we don't see it as a business, we won't grow. The financial sector in Nigeria is growing well. So many other sectors are growing. The legal sector can grow faster than it is today. And the only drawback is because we are a human rights lawyer, we deliver, the oppressed but it is still a business. So people need to begin to look at it from a commercial perspective, how we organize, how we can structure ourselves, how we can improve ourselves, and how we can build a base that would accommodate other people to benefit from. So that would be my message to the president of the bar.
Welcome back. The Federal High Court sitting in Lagos has held a valedictory court session in honor of a retired judge of the court, Justice Taiwo. The Chief Judge of the court, Justice John Sowo, led other justices of the court and members of staff to host members of the inner and outer bar who attended the event. The event was also attended by family and friends of the retired Justice Taiwo. Speaker after speaker took turns to appreciate Justice Taiwo, who was described as bold, courageous, and one of the faces of the modern judiciary. Justice Taiwo, who spent 7 years on the bench, retired as a judge of the Federal High Court on July the 31st after clocking the mandatory retirement age of 65. In his remarks, the valedictorian touched on some of the lingering issues close to his heart, especially as it concerns the bar and the practice of law.
I'm bothered by many issues I noticed in all my years in active legal practice, and most especially in the few years I spent on the bench. One of them is the speed at which lawyers instigate their clients to write petitions against judges. I must state that I'm aware that in some instances, there may be justification for it. But more often than not, the petitions are frivolous to the extent of being ridiculous. I'm aware that some lawyers engage in this practice when their case is bad, when they want to delay the matter, or when they would rather prefer their case to be handled by another judge other than whom it is assigned. I'm bothered by the arrogance of some members of the inner and outer bar when conducting cases in the court. Some have no respect anymore for the bench. I'm of the view that respect begets respect, and that as a lawyer, you must respect the bench. You can insult a judge in words if you so wish, but it does not portray you as a gentleman in line with the ethics of our noble profession.
Away from that story, the Lagos State Domestic and Sexual Violence has organized a symposium with the theme Tales of Survivors to commemorate the Domestic and Sexual Violence Awareness Month. The Awareness Month, which began this September, has seen the agency organize various activities to revolutionize and increase the sensitization of people regarding the ills of domestic, gender-based, and sexual violence. Here's the report.
Gathered here at this symposium are judges, lawyers, representatives of non-governmental organizations, and stakeholders who are working to end the menace of sexual gender-based violence in Lagos State. The Chief Justice of Lagos State, Justice Kazeem Alugba, is represented here by a judge of the State High Court, Justice Sherifat Sholebo. Justice Sholebo, who is also a member of the Domestic and Sexual Violence Agency, speaks on why the crime persists. She also preferred recommendations to aid the prompt delivery of justice to victims of abuse.
Suggestion to the AG, to the governor through the AG, for further investment in technological tools, if we must hear some of these cases fast. Another one would be teleconferencing, and because some of these victims would run out of Lagos after a while because of pressure, from the offenders, we probably find it difficult to get them back to jurisdiction. There have been cases in my court where even when they have been told that they will be paid witness appearance fee, they still refuse to come. So if we have what is called teleconferencing, that is on the phone, we could have the audio chats, if everybody will be in court except that particular witness who probably is not within jurisdiction, and we can just discuss. You can give a statement, and of course we can hear the cases, and cross-examination could also take place. And also it is being suggested that we can have what we call video link.
Another speaker, the Dean, Faculty of Social Sciences, University of Lagos, Professor Olufunmilayo Bameke, gives reasons why many survivors of abuse refuse to seek redress and instead prefer to sweep the sad incidents under the carpet. She also applauded the courage of those who came forward to seek justice.
They are reluctant to report sexual and gender-based violence for fear of being blamed, for fear of being disbelieved, and for fear of being stigmatized. And honestly, you must commend the courage of survivors who are able to go forward to seek redress.
Professor Bameke also gives suggestions on how judges can better handle cases of survivors of domestic, sexual, or gender-based violence.
People have actually commented that when you go to court and the judge is a judge that's already trained in issues of sexual and gender-based violence, that even the way the proceeding will be conducted is usually different. The respect that will be shown even to the survivor, whether a man or a woman, and the knowledge that the judge would demonstrate that usually is comforting to the survivor, make the survivor know that, well, this person understands what you are talking about. Even though you can't determine how the judgment will go, but at least the person will be able to empathize and understand what that other person is going through.
Some survivors who preferred not to speak on tape shared their experience and how they have been coping. The Executive Secretary of Lagos State Domestic and Sexual Violence Agency, Titilola Adeniyi, took the opportunity of the seminar to shed more light on the plans of the agency to collaborate with the police.
In Lagos State, we have designated police stations, and they are referred to as family support units, where these cases can be reported to. We have plans to upgrade an additional 5 of such, so that when survivors go to any of these designated police stations, they can be assured that they will be treated with empathy. The whole referral pathway will be activated once they report, and they will be assured that they are going to access justice.
With all of these efforts, the expectation is that more survivors would be courageous enough to come forward. And when they do, all critical stakeholders will ensure that they are adequately heard and their protection guaranteed.
And on the home stretch, here's a recap of some of the top trending legal stories in the news.
We begin with the report that the acting Chief Justice of Nigeria, Justice Rtd Justice, was on Wednesday formally confirmed as the Chief Justice of Nigeria. At his appearance before the Senate on Wednesday, Justice Justice said the judiciary is poorly funded. He appealed for review of the entitlements of judicial officers. The CJN also appealed to the National Assembly to amend the Constitution to allow some cases stop at the Court of Appeal so as not to overburden Supreme Court justices. From there, we move to the courtrooms. The Supreme Court has struck out a suit instituted against the People's Democratic Party to enforce the zoning and rotatory policy in the 2023 presidential election. In a unanimous judgment delivered by Justice Adamu Jaro, the court struck out the suit on the grounds of lack of jurisdiction to entertain it. A presidential aspirant of PDP and former Deputy Speaker of Abia State House of Assembly, Cosmos Ndukwe, had instituted a suit against his party, praying for an order to compel it to uphold the zoning and rotatory policy of the party. At the National Industrial Court, Justice Wite Polycarp has ordered the Academic Staff Union of Universities ASU to go back to work, while the case involving it and the federal government is being heard. The court on Wednesday, September the 21st, invoked Section 18 of the Trade Dispute Act and the national interest of the Nigerian students to grant the request of the federal government for an order of injunction against the lecturers. Hours after the ruling, ASU expressed its intention to appeal. ASU's counsel, Mr. Femi Falana, also confirmed that he was already preparing the grounds of appeal. Still in Lagos, the Special Offences Court sitting in Ikeja has sentenced convicted kidnap kingpin Chukwudememe Owolabi, popularly known as Evans, to 21 years in prison. Justice Rtd Taiwo convicted and sentenced Evans and his co-defendant, a dismissed soldier, Victor Aduba, to 21 years imprisonment for kidnapping a businessman, Silvanus Ahamunu Hafia, in 2014. The court also convicted and sentenced them to another 5 years imprisonment each on 2 other counts of conspiracy to commit the acts and for being in unlawful possession of firearms. The court held that the jail terms will run concurrently with no option of fine.
And this is where we adjourn till next week. Don't forget that you can find this episode of the program and past episodes on our YouTube channel. After viewing, be sure to leave us a feedback. I am Shola Sheyele. Thank you for watching and see you next week.